just a moment ago, I feel like we need to have, the Lord just led for me to have a service where we're going to have verses that show us that God is with us when we move. And so we're just going to look at a couple of verses in the scriptures. We won't be real long unless David makes me be long. So if I'm long, it's David's fault. I'm just going to say it now. Is that all right, David? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. I got broad shoulders. That's what he says. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse number 6. Again, we're just going to look at some verses where the Lord is going to be with us. And he says, "Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee nor forsake thee." And you know, like I said, the book of Deuteronomy is just a retelling. And Moses is trying to encourage Joshua as Joshua is about to take over. And so this is Moses speaking to Joshua. Because I believe if you look at verse number 7, it says that Moses said to Joshua. It's something along those lines. But he's saying, "Be strong and of a good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them." You know, I know we're taking a huge step. We're going from the safety of renting to the I don't know what you want to call it, of owning. So we're taking that step of ownership. And what that's going to do for us in the community is show the community that we're here. And we're here to stay. And so in the community, it's great, but you know, for those of us inside, you get comfortable with the evil that you're comfortable with, don't you? Change is difficult, is it not? Especially for independent fundamental Baptists. I've told this before. How many independent Baptists does it take to change a light bulb? They all look at you and say, "Change?" And so for us to change locations, and really we're changing the whole dynamic of our church now, because now, I mean, we've got Sunday school classes. We've got a room for the ladies to meet in, their own room. We've got a dedicated room for the children. Man, you're still stuck in the sanctuary. We've got a room now that we can go and have fellowship in. If you've not been to the building, or if you've only been there once or twice, you'll still get lost, because there's hallways now in the building and there's multiple doors. And so the whole dynamic in our move is a big change. And what the Lord is trying to say really through Moses to Joshua, and then by proxy to us as well, is fear not. Be not afraid. Yes, this is a big step, but who's bigger than this step? You know, God is. And it says, He it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And so even though we feel like this is a huge move for us, for the Lord it's like, well, finally. And by the way, here, and so, you know, as we look at this move, fear not, and don't be afraid. The Lord's already got it taken care of. And so we just need to take those steps. All right, you're in Deuteronomy. Go to Joshua. I believe it's the next book, Joshua Judges. Yep. Joshua 1. So in Deuteronomy 31, that's Moses telling Joshua to be of good courage. In Joshua chapter 1 and verse 9, it's the Lord telling Joshua. Joshua chapter 1 and verse number 9, "Have not I commanded thee?" And so it's the Lord telling Joshua, "Didn't I tell you you're taking over? Yes, you're taking over these 5 million whiners. You know, it went from 2 million whiners to 5 million whiners. The children of Israel, you know, they left Egypt under Moses, and now they're going into the promised land under Joshua. And it's the Lord that's doing the commanding and saying, it's time now to go into the land. Have not I commanded thee? And, in this move, every time we tell the story about this move to anybody, everybody's jaw drops at how quickly we went from being complacent here to now moving into our new building. And all of that is of the Lord. Have not I commanded thee? The Lord is the one that's been doing all that moving. And then he says, be strong and of a good courage, be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. It almost sounds like Moses was saying to Joshua, word for word. And so, same thing for us, church. Don't be afraid of what's coming. What we need to be is excited about what's coming and what the Lord's about to do. Not be afraid, not be trepidatious, not be on the downer side of it. Oh no, we're changing. Let's not be on that side. Let's be on the side, I wonder what the Lord's going to do. That's certainly the side I want to be on. I want to be on that side to say, hey, let's go. Let's see what God's got for us. All right, Psalm 37. Psalm 37. And verse 23. Psalm 37 and verse 23. Psalm 37 and verse 23. It says this, the steps of a good man are what? Ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. And so if we are, and that's the biblical sense, since the condition exists that we're good men, good people, I would hope the church thinks that they're good. Are we trying to follow Christ? Are we trying to follow his word? As much as lieth within us, can we be good? Who's ordering those steps then? The Lord is, right? But if you take a really close look at this verse, it really reads the steps of a man. Do you see that word good is italicized? So that means the word good doesn't appear in the Hebrew. All right, King James translators were honest. However, with this thing called, holy cow, this is the second time I've tried to remember what this is called. My instructor's going to shoot me through the computer. No. It's the structure in the way it's written in the Hebrew. It's a structure, and it's written up here specifically, but then as we go down, just because it's written in the same structure, then what's written up here applies to what's written down here in the Hebrew. And that's what the King James translators understood in this context. That's why they inserted the word good, because of this structure that was used. And like I said, my instructor is going to shoot me through the computer. It's not coming. But we see here that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. And so again, since it's the Lord that's ordering our steps, it's the Lord that's putting these things into motion, we ought to just delight. We ought to delight. All right, you're in Psalm 37. Go to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3 and verses 5 and 6. These are well-known verses. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Well-known verses. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. You know, that's what we've been trying to do, is just lean on him in this whole thing. And what's that last phrase there? What's he going to do? He's going to direct our paths. And so in this move, we've been trusting in the Lord. We've not been leaning on our own understanding. By the way, leaning on our own understanding, if we were to lean on our own understanding, realizing that we had to get out of this building, what would we do as men and women on our own without God? And we had $10,000 in the bank. Right? I'm with you. Right? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Right? Whose house are we going to move into? Because we're leaving here and we just don't have anywhere. But what does the Lord do? Boy, he directed our paths, did he not? And it just so happens by coincidence that that property was for sale. And just by coincidence, the seller basically accepted our offer. $300,000 cheaper than the listing price. By coincidence. So doesn't that sound like the steps of the Lord, that the Lord ordered those steps and that he directed our paths? Doesn't it almost sound like he was doing all the work? And what are we supposed to do if he's doing all the work? Just follow along. You know, before in the beginning, I likened it to whitewater rafting. If you ever get thrown out of the raft, grab onto your life vest, point your feet downstream, and no matter what rocks come up or anything, you're just going to do this with whatever the river takes you through. And, you know, that's what we're doing with the Lord. Whatever the Lord's doing, that's what we're doing. I'm not trying to fight the current. I'm not trying to fight the rocks that come up. I'm just going to go with the flow and how the Lord leads, because that's exactly what he tells us to do here in Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. By the way, have we not been saying this whole time that it's of God, this whole thing? Only he could direct the paths. Only he could have that woman call the property manager at the exact time that this property was coming up for sale, and then her come through the building and say, I love it, I want it, and make us make the decisions to move. And there's that building over there for sale, and then we contact the seller and say, yeah, I know you have this price, but would you take this price? Well, I won't take that price, but I'll take this price, just a little bit more. I mean, do you see how the Lord has just been in this whole... So it says right here, in all thy ways acknowledge him. We've been saying all along it's of him. And then all of the people that have been giving outside of our church. I'm talking about outside of our church. All of the people that have been giving has been phenomenal to us. And then all the people in the church that have been giving, and by the way, have been giving for years. We've been having our building fund on the offering envelope since we began. And we've been setting that money aside, and here we are using it. Using it for what? For our own building. For our own building. And how did that happen? In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Man, we ought to make that like the church verse. You know, put that up on the back wall over the clock. Really big letters over the clock. Because there was something said about the clock on Wednesday night, and so it's going to go over the top of that clock. All right, you're in Proverbs 3. Let's go to Proverbs 16. Proverbs 16. and verse number 9. This is almost the opposite, at least the first part of the verse is almost opposite of what we just saw in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. In Proverbs 16:9, a man's heart deviseth his way. And like I said, if it was up to me and coming up with a way for us to be meeting in a building, I'd be looking for another place to rent. I'd be looking for another place to go in and another building to rent, another building to lease if it was up to me. But a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. And so again, there's a way that we think and there's a way that I think, but then there's the way that the Lord thinks. And we really need to go the way that the Lord thinks. And so again, making this move, I think is, well, I keep using the word I think and I feel, but I know that it's directed by the Lord. All right, and the last verse we're going to look at, Jeremiah 29. I think this is one of my wife's favorite verses, Jeremiah 29 and verse 11. Do you know that God thinks about you? Do you know that God thinks about you? Now, he's speaking to the children of Israel in Jeremiah 29. He's speaking to them about captivity and everything. And he's saying at the end of the captivity, when the end of the captivity comes, and he comes to Jeremiah 29 and verse number 11, the Lord says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you. Isn't that a great thing that the Creator of all things thinks about that which He created? For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you an expected end. And again, in context, that expected end is the end of the captivity. Would you say that a lease is a sort of a captivity? Could you say something like that? And so we're coming to an expected end. Now we're moving from a lease to a mortgage, but Lord willing, and the way the Lord has been working, by January the mortgage will be paid for. All we'll be doing is paying taxes and utilities. You broke the system. And so, just saying. And so the Lord is taking care of basically everything, and just to think that He is up in heaven sitting on His throne and thinking about us. Are we a great big church? Would you call this church a mega church? I certainly wouldn't. But sitting up in heaven, you would think that He would be more concerned with the bigger churches, right? The ones that are bigger and growing, and the ones that are, have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. But you know what? His thoughts are on us. His thoughts are on us. And thank God that the hairs on our head are numbered. That's how much He thinks about us. Now again, I'm going to look at David. Some of us have a little bit less. Some of us have a little bit less. But His thoughts are on you as well, Follically challenged, we call that. But isn't it encouraging to know that even a church our size and insignificant, I'm a nobody, 2 or 3 people in the country know me, and the Lord has directed our paths to move from this place to that place that's ours. And the only thing that we've done is leaned on Him, trusted in Him, expected Him to do the work. And that's it. And then look, here we are, last service in this place. I'm about to say, let's close in a word of prayer for the last time in this place. Right? And the next time that we pray, it's going to be in our place. It's going to be in the place that the Lord has picked out for us, for our permanent dwelling, at least until we grow past that. Can you imagine, those of you that have been there, outgrowing that building and having to move into a larger building than that one? Because this whole building fits in the sanctuary of that building. You know, I mentioned this morning, the stuff that we have, my baptistry is only this big in the new building. in the new sanctuary, it's only this big. It took up that whole wall. And so, can you imagine outgrowing that? By the way, I'm already praying for that day. It's coming. We're going to outgrow that building. And then we're going to move into Stephanie's old employer building.
You know what you can also do?
Huh?
In order to start breaking up and actually causing a debt in these people, start buying out Calvary Chapel right out from under.
There we go. We can move into Calvary Chapel. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
No, I'm referring to those, so that way then you can hamper them from spoiling people.
Right? Absolutely. All right, any questions about the verses that we looked at? Anything about the move? All I'm going to say is, get excited. Yes?
So Wednesday services will be held over yonder?
That is correct. So if you're interested, the address, just because it's easier, is right on the outside of the door on our little letter placard. If you want to take a picture of it, that's the best way to do it. If not, it's right behind Ace on 22nd and Culp. We're on 21st Street now, right behind the Tucson Bowl.
Okay, not 29th, 21st.
21st. Okay. So 22nd and Kolb, where that big Ace is,
yeah.
We're right behind that.
Was there a bowling alley there?
There's a bowling alley. Yes. We're on the other side of that little street that goes behind there. That's 21st Street. So bowling alley is here. We're going to be right across the street. Yep, we face the bowling alley.
Good ministry opportunities there.
Yep.
No, I'm serious, literally. Get off the gospel signs. Throw the gospel signs in there.
Yep. No, we've already had people come in front. I don't know if I've shared this. When Cameron and I were taking down the old sign, we already had people from the bowling alley. Hey, who are you guys? And we're like, yeah, Old Pueblo Baptist Church is moving in there and everything. And they were like, really? When is that? And so Cameron was the one doing all the talking. He wouldn't even let me talk. And so we've already had people from the bowling alley, asking us questions about it. And we'll be hanging banners up, Lord willing, tomorrow. New home of Old Pueblo Baptist Church. So they'll be visible to everybody at the bowling alley. So, yeah, I mean.
I have a question.
Yes.
When your pulpit's up there, since it's big, are you going to actually be seen from a good distance from there?
Or do we need binoculars?
I got a pair ready.
Am I going to have to invest in those theater binoculars, that are on the little, with the little. Am I going to have to get some of those for the?
Everything looks so small. I was just wondering about your pulpit yourself.
Well, it is a bigger platform, so we'll find out tomorrow when we place the pulpit. And it looks, this big up on.
Is it a slope floor or a flat floor?
No, it's flat. Yeah, it's flat.
I know we're all be able to hear you. That's a given. But I'm just wondering.
You're going to hear me multiple times until we get carpet in there. Tangy. Get right.
Church in the box?
I'm sorry?
You do not have to play church in the box?
No.
What I'm referring to that is, okay, all you parishioners, we have to set up and tear down after every service.
Yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. Yep, no, we're looking forward to that. That's like one of the biggest things we've been looking forward to. All right, anybody else with a question or comment? All right, let's go ahead and be dismissed for the last time in this building.